David, I want to ask you about Afghanistan. The president made a trip. You were on the trip as well over the weekend, his first trip as president. Beyond the messages that he has to deliver, sometimes in person, to people like President Karzai, what does he get out of it? Does his perspective change? Does his judgment change as a result of seeing the policies implemented on the ground?
Well, two things happened there that I think were significant. The first and foremost was it's always good to see the troops, and he had a great interaction with the splendid young people who are over there, and that was the primary motivation for getting over there, because these kids are away from home, many from their children, their parents, and going into a holiday season. He wanted to offer his support and the good wishes and appreciation of the American people. The second, in his meetings with President Karzai, he also got to meet with key members of Karzai's cabinet and hear firsthand how some of the programs that are so essential to success are progressing, and I think that was a very useful exercise for him.
He said today that the progress, though, has been too slow. How was he able to sort of goose them, if you will, to speed it up?
Well, look, I think that he had a very frank discussion with President Karzai. It was respectful, but it was frank about what our expectations are, and which areas need to be accelerated. Some around the question of corruption, and everyone is aware of that. So he delivered a firm message. I think that message was received, and but this is going to be an ongoing discussion. And President Karzai is coming here in May, and I'm sure that discussion will continue. But every day we have people on the ground who are working with that administration to see to it that progress continues.
I want to talk a little politics, looking forward to 2010. We're obviously still some months out, but have you begun game planning what you envision to see the president's role on the campaign trail this fall? Do you expect him to be out there fairly aggressively and visiting a lot of districts, working on behalf of a lot of House members?
Well, I'm sure he'll be out
candidates?
there making the case, and he has a great deal of appreciation for members of Congress who have done an awful lot of work in the last year and a half under an unbelievably difficult set of circumstances, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, deep political division. We have a political party, the Republican Party, that's basically made a decision to sit it out, and on the theory that somehow if the country fails, they'll succeed. That's put all the pressure on Democrats to lift the great burden here, and
so are there
and
pockets?
So he's going to go out and make that case. We've got one party that is looking to the future and fighting for the next generation, and another party that's focused solely on the next election, and we can't afford that at this time.
Are there pockets of the country where you think he can be most effective, or that you're concerned, well, maybe that's not the place that you really want to see him out there?
Well, obviously we're going to work with members, and we're going to go where we can be of most use, and the president's time is the rarest commodity we have, so we're going to have to make some decisions as to how to apportion it, but we want to send him where he'll do the most good.
It sounds to me, when you're talking about the parties, David, that you've given up on the Republican Party. I mean, that's how it sounds to me a little bit. And I want to ask you a question in context of the next major domestic policy initiative coming up, financial regulatory reform. Do you guys see, then, how you did healthcare as a model? Try to reach out, try to get Republican buy-in. If it's not there, go ahead and pass this Democrats only, or no, you actually think financial reform is something you must have Republican votes for, not just ideas.
Let me say a few things. First of all, I haven't given up on Republicans. I do believe that there are Republicans of good conscience who want to work together on issues. We want to continue to do that. The fact is that the health care bill was informed by some of the discussions that we had with Republicans in the Senate. I'm encouraged that some of the Republicans who voted against the bill already are sending out memos claiming credit for pieces of it, which tells you something. And on financial reform, we're certainly going to invite them to participate with us. There's enormous pressure from the financial industry, huge army of lobbyists on the Hill. The Republican Party has generally been very responsive to that lobby, and one hopes that some of them will break loose here and say we can't allow the country to get into the same situation we were in the last few years because of the reckless speculation on Wall Street, that we have to set some rules and we have to enforce them. We have to protect consumers and give them the information they need to make good judgments.
If you have to pass it with just Democrats, that's...
Well, if our goal, David, is to move the country forward. We wanted to work with anybody who's willing to work with us to get that done. But what we can't do is sit still in the face of great challenges because one party has decided to sit on the sidelines.
You've spoken with some frustration. The president has spoken with some frustration about the failure to change the tone of Washington politics, and we get sort of locked into these never-ending matches where it's one side against the other. Is there anything you take away from this past year and say, look, this is maybe something we can learn from and do differently in the ensuing months and years in terms of trying to change where we stand in political rhetoric?
You know, I think persistence, which is a hallmark of this president, and everybody should recognize that by now, is the key thing. We're going to continue on every issue to try and work with folks on the other side, as well as Democrats, to solve problems. Yes, we had a intense debate about health care, but from where we sit, that doesn't mean that we can't agree on other things. David mentioned education reform. There's some good support on the Republican side for the very substantial reforms the president and Arne Duncan are trying to enact, and we're going to work with the Republicans to try and effectuate that. So I think our view is to keep plugging away. And ultimately, I believe more and more Republicans are going to come to the conclusion that it is better politics to work on the problems facing this country than it is to work on the re-election process every single day, and to stop worrying about their base and start worrying about the future of the country.
In our final 30 seconds, 45 seconds here, David, last night I know you attended the Seder that the president held in the old family dining room in the White House, and I wonder, when you walk into a room like that, could you imagine what Thomas Jefferson, forget Thomas Jefferson, what John Kennedy would think of a table half of Jews, half of African Americans having a Seder in this White House?
Well, I think the two presidents you mentioned would have been really, really pleased to see that, because it reflects the evolution of our country, the pluralism of our country, and I think they would have been really thrilled to see that, and some of the other things that are happening here. Often I sit in that Oval Office, and the president sits in his chair, and above him is George Washington, and on the wall is Abraham Lincoln, and I'm thinking, what a great commentary about the progress of our country, and how pleased they would have been could they witness this.
And who asked the 4 questions, and who found the afikoman?
I have to say that the winner on both fronts was Sasha.
As it should be. David Axelrod, Senior White House Advisor, thank you very much for being here.
Happy birthday, you guys.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it very
It's not quite a whole gift set, but
yes,
the
well,
top
this
line
is
mug.
great. This will do.
Coming after.
This is great.
That's right. Limited
you.
edition.
That does it for this edition of Top Line. Be sure to click us on again tomorrow.
And it's twitter.com/thenote. You know, they say this time of year, next year Jerusalem, next year right here. Okay? Deal? Good.
Deal.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much.